Day 1063 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 822,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,600 losses in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, 12 tanks, 23 APVs, 60 artillery, 1 air defense system, and a whopping 194 soft targets. Then headed straight to the map because Ukrainian attack drones targeted the Smolensk aviation plant, igniting a fierce blaze at the facility responsible for manufacturing Russian Kh-59 cruise missiles, with at least one workshop confirmed as a direct hit. Eyewitnesses reported multiple explosions in the district just north of the city of Smolensk itself, at about 300 kilometers or 180 miles across the Ukrainian border. While Russian air defenses claim to have intercepted all drones, the damage is undeniable, with a strike that not only disrupts production of critical weaponry, but also serves as a stark reminder of Ukraine's relentless focus on key military assets within Russian territory. Russia is constantly getting attacked. It feels like we're living in an alternate reality. Then at the same time, there was also a UAV hit on a TV or communications tower. But as for the plant, and from a geopolitical standpoint, this facility is already under international sanctions. But there's really no instant hard-hitting sanctions on Russia, quite like Ukrainian UAVs. And since we're in this region, it seems Russia also went for the overnight trifecta, with a local putting on display the sand sludge coming out of their taps. What a time to be alive in Russia. Then also overnight, Saratov appeared to take a hit from an unidentified flying object. It's not exactly clear what happened here, but likely relates to another attack on the airbase and the recently troubled adjacent oil depot of that region. But that's not all, because in an ongoing troubling turn of events for Russia's oil infrastructure, the oil depot in Lysky of Voronezh has been blazing for over 5 days now, following multiple renewed Ukrainian drone strikes. But 5 days is by no means a record, with an oil depot in the Rostov region from last year taking about 15 days to sizzle out. And for Lysky, their air defenses, they're now widely reported to be just the small caliber fire that continue to prove ineffective. Now, more specifically, as of last night, locals reported renewed fires suggesting another successful attack, not to mention the overheard drone activity, marking the 3rd consecutive night of strikes, highlighting a persistent vulnerability in Russia's energy assets. That's quite serious. And now, with air defenses seemingly overwhelmed, Putin's oil industry appears to be on a slow but steady decline. Then headed further down on the map, and again overnight, more UAVs spotted in the Rostov region, heading for Russian targets, with the audio feed in this video, like many others, letting off the sounds of a combustion engine or two or more. Russia cannot even cope with these slow-flying UAVs, so how are they going to cope with Ukraine's fast-paced Neptune missiles and jet propulsion hybrid missile drones, which are in serial production and already used occasionally in this war, with no signs of abating? But it wasn't all success for the AFU overnight, well, depending on how you measure success, as Ukraine hit a bullseye in Kazan, but the fuel tank was empty. Even so, impressive precision, hitting a target like that at almost exactly 1,000 kilometers away. Then headed across on the map to the reports coming out of Kursk, with 3 North Korean soldiers wanted for the fatal incident involving 5 Russian troops in the region. The suspects have been on the run for over a week now, due to this friendly fire elimination style event, with authorities still searching for the suspects. This case highlights the murky waters of Russia's military alliances and the potential for internal strife, even within their own ranks. It's a troubling sign of deeper issues at play where successful integration of the Asian army into those Russian ranks seems to be more and more turning into a pipe dream. Now, as for those previously captured North Korean soldiers, the POWs, they are still spilling the beans with further revelations to Ukraine's SSU investigators. They confirm their transfer to Russia was followed by military integration training and becoming subject to tight information blackouts they endured. Further details included that they didn't know they'd come to fight, or even who the enemy was. Well, that might help explain at least some of the numerous friendly fire incidents. Others seemed more like revolt, mutiny. So this intelligence goldmine is just the tip of the iceberg as Ukraine digs deeper into Pyongyang's role in this conflict. Then headed down the map and straight into the activity seen in Donetsk as a Russian T-80 tank was spotted somewhere on this front, abandoned and later destroyed by an AFU drone. Although on this occasion it was a different ordnance of a thermite drone that's already often seen deployed in combat scenarios. However, this lesser or unseen type doesn't shower termite spray into trenches, but rather lands on the tank, at which point it proceeds to expel its thermite package, burning a hole right through, and something that no cope cage can protect against. Then headed far southwest on the map in a display of the sneaky Pete that Russia is, because Turkey arrested the Bloom ship, which was transporting drones and ammunition to Russia under the flag of St. Kitts and Nevis, which is a very small sovereign state located in the Caribbean. But of course, Turkey blocked the passage of all Russian military vessels and equipment from coming through the Bosphorus Strait upon the outset of this war. So this was a risky move that didn't pay off, where Russia could have instead unloaded this material in one of its eastern ports, followed by sending it by land route to its west. So an event like this really speaks to the state of Russia's determined desperations in foregoing the use of that 6,000 miles of railroad infrastructure, because it meant that Russia would rather risk the loss of a speedier weapons acquisition delivery through the Bosphorus instead of taking the long route, in what you can only assess is the time-sensitive requirement for such weapons that they'll never get their hands on now. Then taking a look around on the map, because somewhere near the front, another Tor M2 air defense system was presumably destroyed by an FPV drone from the 65th Mechanized Brigade, although no recon footage to show the devastation or damage of what that aftermath could very well look like. Crusty. And an event like this should call to the Russian Defense Ministry's attention the very deficit or complete lack thereof electronic warfare countermeasures that Russia needs to protect such a highly valuable warfare asset that costs more than $25 million US. Then also somewhere on the front, a Russian D-30 122mm howitzer from 1963 was successfully destroyed by an FPV drone of the Steel Border Brigade, with this event believed to happen somewhere between Sumy and Suja of the Kursk Oblast. Then also we saw more examples of how, well in this case, this Russian trudges along in the road of iron, steel, or scrap metal death, complaining about their destroyed equipment. Always a sight to behold, and surely some tourism value in some of these leftovers one day. Then also, somewhere at the front, but from a slightly different angle, as a concerned mobilized Russian soldier took to Telegram to complain about Ukrainian drones flying in free hunt mode. He says that it reminds him of the Luftwaffe in 1941, only without any resistance from Russian air defenses in this case. Though I doubt this telegrammer is 100 years old, more of a reference to the World War II event than anything. Though we did see a 77-year-old Russian soldier once. Then headed across to some Transnistrian Moldovan political developments as President of Moldova, Maya Sandu, announced that Moldova is ready to provide financial assistance to Transnistria in response to its energy crisis, but to do so only if Russian troops are withdrawn from the region. Unfortunately, that's a pretty tough sell given that Transnistria's entire government and president of the internationally unrecognized region are all homegrown Russians. Then headed across to some news, and to the biggest news to come out right after my upload from yesterday, as the United States begins a new chapter with its incoming 47th president, Donald J. Trump, with a swift Senate move following the inauguration, as Marco Rubio has been confirmed as the new US Secretary of State, signaling a potential shift in America's approach to the Russo-Ukrainian war. Rubio, replacing Antony Blinken, emphasizes the need for both Russia and Ukraine to make concessions for peace, while acknowledging Russia's role as the aggressor, and stresses the urgent need to end this bloody conflict. So as the newly inaugurated Trump administration gears up for negotiations, the stakes are high, and the implications for Ukraine's sovereignty are profound. Then, in a suspiciously timed recent video call from today, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin reaffirmed their commitment to deepening China-Russia ties amid global tensions. Putin touted his supposed stabilizing role in international affairs, which I am without words to comment on, while Xi Jinping expressed readiness to elevate bilateral relations to new heights between the countries. And yet, out of all of it, it's almost the exact same rhetoric expressed every time between these two leaders. However, beneath the surface, this alliance appears more transactional in nature, with Putin likely seeking financial or military support to further his aggressive policies, and/or, in the least, to sell off his country's dwindling sovereign wealth fund for dual-use goods it can purchase from China. And although they talk the talk of elevating those bilateral relations to new heights, it presents a significant challenge for China given the ever-watchful gaze of Western oversight. Then headed across to a short Russian military mobilization blunder segment, as a disturbing video circulated on Russian Telegram yesterday, a channel of Russian origin that is to say, showing brutal punishment of soldiers from the 55th Motor Rifle Brigade. Filmed in Tuva, military police are seen beating two wounded troops who refuse to participate further in meat assaults. The video is a bit of a downer, so today I'll just leave you with a few of the screen grabs. Now, one of the victims can no longer walk, unrelated to the beatdown, and it should be mentioned that their basis for the refusal was due to being injured from previous combat engagements. So this increasingly prevalent and disgusting treatment highlights a troubling systemic issue within the Russian military, where coercion and beatings are evidently standard tactics, and evident for some time. The inhumane treatment also reveals a dark reality, exposing the lengths to which their military will go to maintain their brutal offensive strategies. Oh, and just to tie the knot on this recently seen, but not at all uncommon behavior within the Russian military, there was also another case of Tarantino-like dialogues from the 80th Guards Tank Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces, specified down to the military unit 87441, another beating copped. And it's because of environments like these that many Russian soldiers don't get equipped with firearms until they're dropped off in the fields not far from the commencement of their meat assaults. Even then, many remain ill-equipped. Then to something a bit lighter to round off the video today, guys. And by lighter, I mean to say that in a more of a low-fat, light butter kind of way. Really, it's one of Russian economy news, as this Russian gentleman is calling it no joke that butter costs 342 rubles in his local supermarket, with the price effectively doubling in a space of the last 2 months. Noting that it's a price which is getting remarkably close to the cost of most Western nations, with that amount of rubles equal to about $3. So a few euros here, a few dollars there, but just give it another 2 months and it may cost even more. And then in the same sentiment, another Russian shopper had concerns about the prohibitively expensive shaving cream sourced from his local grocery store, costing 520 rubles, or about just under $5. And you might query this, thinking, that's not so bad, these are nearly the prices I pay down at my own local store. But these examples speak to the wider state of the Russian economy, with average salaries at approximately $820 per month, or just shy of $10,000 per annum. which means that's about 1/6 or 1/7 of the annual salary of most Western nations. But at the same time, these Russians are paying nearly the same price on many consumer staple items as Westerners would. So the only question remains, are Russians going to hold those in power accountable for the internationally imposed backbreaking economic sanctions they face due to one man who has affected the lives of most of the Russian citizenry? Or, more likely the case, they wait even longer for things to get much, much worse, where they have nothing left to lose by that stage, followed by giving up on all of those useless video appeals to Vova Putin and unite en masse to ensure that their country-destroying autocrat leader is removed. Well, all we could probably say for sure right now is that the current price of this Russian store butter will be considered cheap, comparatively speaking, by the time those internal escalations get to that level. What a time to be alive in Russia. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!